Ania declared, "The Torah is not in heaven, it is here, within us." In our struggle to fathom the depths of our received tradition, and in our ability to take Torah to the next step. Of course, that doesn't mean we can make up whatever sounds nice to us and call it Torah. There are rigorous guidelines and a firm set of criteria for a novel idea to be considered Torah. We are dealing with a delicate ecology here. You have to understand the landscape very well before building a highway here and damming a river over there, but what it does mean is that when you are working through a Torah idea, doing all that examining and letting the creative juices pour within the guidelines mentioned above, those ideas within your brain and those words that you are speaking are no different than GD declaring, "I am the LRD, your GD," etc. At Mount Sinai. When you are working through a Torah idea, those ideas within your brain and those words that you are speaking are no different than the words of the written Torah themselves, as those Talmudic sages put it. Any new idea a qualified Torah student comes up with was already given to Moses at Sinai. The idea is new, but it's still Torah. It's new, because until now it was hidden deep within the folds and creases of the package Moses delivered. It's Torah, because all the qualified student did was unfold the package and smooth out the creases. So if I come up with one of those bright Torah ideas one day, is it my idea or is it Torah? It's both. In the oral Torah, we and GD become one. Getting real change, so you can see where I'm getting to with the slavery thing. If GD would simply and explicitly declare all the rules, precisely as he wants his world to look and what we need to do about it, the Torah would never become real to us. No matter how much we would do and how good we would be, we would remain aliens to the process. So, too, with slavery. And there are many other examples. In the beginning, the world starts off as a place where oppressing others is in no qualms. Perfectly acceptable practice. It's not just the practice Torah needs to deal with, it's the attitude. So Torah involves us in arriving at that attitude. To the point that we will say, even though the Torah lets us, we don't do things that way, which means that we've really learned something. And now, we can teach it others. Because those things you're just told, those you cannot teach. You can only teach that which you have discovered on your own. History bears this out. Historically, it has been the oral Torah, rather than the written Torah, that has had the greatest impact on civilization. As much as Rome ruled over Judea, Jewish values deeply transformed Rome. One of the results was the legal privileges eventually granted to slaves and the gradual recognition of the value of human life. Torah involves us in arriving at the right attitude. And now, we can teach it others. Because you can only teach that which you have discovered on your own. For over 1,000 years, the Church managed to subvert the message of Imago Dei, that every human being is blessed, despite the repetition of the concept in the Genesis narrative 5 times. It wasn't until the Italian Renaissance that a new humanist spirit dawned, and the idea could no longer be repressed. The oratory on the dignity of man is often touted as the manifesto of the Renaissance and early humanism. It was composed by Giovanni Pico della Mirandola. It's no secret that Pico studied under the greatest rabbis of his time and was obsessed with the Zohar and Kabbalah. There are many more such examples. The greatest force in the emancipation of slavery in colonial times were the Society of Friends, also known as the Quakers. Historians discuss the phenomena of the Quakers in the context of the Hebraizing of Christianity again. Their leaders were deeply influenced by readings of the Kabbalah in translation, and by humanists who had learned their ideas from rabbinic sources. The history of emancipation is complex and long, and viciously controversial. In truth, Jews took roles on both sides of the prickly fence. Aaron Lopez, a convert to Judaism, brought slaves on some of his ships to America. On the other hand, Baron Nathan de Rothschild and Sir Moses Montefiore made possible the Great Slave Emancipation Act of 1835 by granting £20 million in loan subsidies. In the struggle, eventually the true Jewish spirit prevailed, and it is those values that Maimonides espouses that eventually became dominant in our society. I'll end off with the juicy biographical vignette of one Jew who struggled for the freedom of slaves. August Angel Bondi was born in Vienna, Austria, July 21, 1833. He was the son of Jews who wanted him to have both a religious and a secular education. Caught up as a participant in the failed liberal revolution of 1848, the Bondi family fled to New Orleans and settled in St. Louis, Missouri. Young Bondi encountered, firsthand, the horrors of slavery and was deeply disgusted. In 1855, a New York Tribune editorial urged freedom. Loving Americans to hurry out to Kansas to help save the state from the curse of slavery, Bondi responded immediately. He moved to Kansas and, along with two other Jews, Theodore Weidner from Poland and Jacob Benjamin from Bohemia, established a trading post in Osawatomie. Their abolitionist sentiments very soon brought pro-slavery terrorists upon them. Their cabin was burned, their livestock stolen. Their trading post was destroyed in the presence of federal troops who did nothing. The three courageous Jews joined a rabid local abolitionist to defend their rights as citizens and to help rid Kansas of the horrors of slavery. The Jews joined the Kansas regulars under the leadership of John Brown in a famous battle between the regulars and the pro-slavery forces at Blackjack Creek. With the bullets whistling viciously above their heads, 23-year-old Bondi turned to his 57-year-old friend Weiner and asked in Yiddish, "Nu, was meinen Sie jetzt?" "Well, what do you think of this now?" he answered. "Was soll ich meinen? Sofodem moves. What should I think? Man's life ends in death." Kansas joined the Union as a free state. Bondi married Henrietta Einstein of Louisville, Kentucky in 1860. Their home became a way station for the Underground Railroad smuggling slaves to the North and freedom. The Civil War began in 1861, and Bondi enlisted in the Union Army, encouraged by the words of his mother. He later wrote in his autobiography, "As a Jew I am obliged to protect institutions that guarantee freedom for all faiths." August Bondi died in 1907, a respected